Hello, fellow EC fan addicts. It's been a while since I've been on here. And so the reason for me doing this video is that a lot of you have asked why I didn't do a video about this beast. And I kind of thought there's a lot of information out there about this, and I didn't want to be too redundant. But then I thought, well, having seen a lot of this original art in person and also being involved with the book, might have some insight that might be kind of interesting about some oddball things to look out for and stuff like that. And so, belatedly, I am making a video about the EC Covers Artists Edition. So let's start off with the introduction. The introduction is written by yours truly, and I am so honored to be part of this amazing collection. So my first little known fact for you is that originally this introduction was going to be written by Russ Cochran, and rightfully so. But sadly, Russ left this earth before that was to happen. And so I just want to thank Scott Dunbier for trusting me to do it. And again, great honor to be involved with this book. It is arranged by last name of the artist. So we'll start with Johnny Craig here. And the first cover I want to highlight is Crime Patrol number 16. That's the second appearance of the Crypt Keeper. And for many, many years, there were stories going around about what was hidden under this text box. So the text box is a paste over. It does hide something rather interesting. It is not reproduced in this book. To see what's under that text box, you will have to get Grant Geisman's History of EC Comics, and you can see it there. So something to look out for. I've talked about this before, but once again, Crime Suspense Stories number 22. When you see the original art, and especially when you see it up close in person, as I have, it's so obvious that it was cropped, moved down, and extra space filled in here by Craig. And you can really see it in the book here with this awesome scan, the way it's cut under, text box added here, the masthead was repositioned so that the bottom of her neck is not visible. And again, for years, there were stories that, this had been self-censored in the office. Bill Gaines even mentioned at the Senate subcommittee hearings that a cover in poor taste would be one where the bottom of the neck was shown with the blood dripping down. And that is, in fact, how Craig originally drew it. And you can see here that that story is actually true. The art was cropped and moved down almost a half an inch. So that's an interesting one. And speaking of self-censorship in the EC office, there's another Craig cover here that is famously one of the self-censored covers, and it's Vault of Horror number 32. This is another one that I've seen in person, and the hatchet in the guy's head here was not on the original printing of the comic. There was a paste over that concealed that. And unfortunately, that paste over no longer exists. So we're not able to see kind of a before and after on this one. So the uncensored version is probably more well known now than the censored version that appeared on the original printing of the comic. There is one here from Jack Davis where we can see the before and after, and that's Tales from the Crypt number 38. And this was another one that was self-censored prior to publication. And you can see in this version, there's nothing going on here, where in the uncensored version, you can see a woman's arm thrown up, and you can see some gore and brain matter coming up from her head there, where the guy is striking with the hatchet. And this is another one that pretty famously had that paste over, which does still exist. And there's another interesting story about this one. It only surfaced very recently, and I had a little something to do with that too. So on the EC Fan-Addict Club page on Facebook, I had posted about Tales from the Crypt number 41, which is the first EC I ever owned, and I was asking if anyone knew where the original art was. So that caught Russ Cochran's attention, and he wrote back to me and said, hey, I'm going to have one of my office assistants reach out to the original buyer and see if he still has it. Not only did that buyer have Tales from the Crypt number 41, he had the covers for Tales from the Crypt numbers 35 and 38, and the complete lead story from Tales from the Crypt 38, which was called Tight Grip, and it's the one that this cover illustrates. So all of those were discovered at the same time and subsequently sold through Russ Cochran auctions for the first time since original sale, and that's why we are able to see the before and after on this one. Speaking of paste overs, there's a couple things that I noticed that are kind of cool to look out for if you're a minutia fanatic like I am. This Al Feldstein cover for Tales of Terror, the third annual, if you look down here, the date is wrong. Take a look at the original publication of the 1953 Tales of Terror annual, and it says EC's Best Yarns from 1952. This is an incorrect paste over. It's the same one that appeared on the second Tales of Terror annual. So check that out. That date is not correct compared to the original publication of the comic book. And there's another Feldstein cover where there's a paste over that has since come off. And it's one that I asked Russ about years ago when I noticed in the complete EC library set that the date was wrong. So here's Weird Science numbers 12 and 13, the first and second issues. And number 13 is the correct July-August issue. But you'll notice that number 12 also says July-August. That's incorrect. If you look at your original printings of that comic, it's going to say May-June. So there was a corrective paste over there that has since come off. And so you've got two issues of Weird Science with the same cover date. Compare that to your original publication, too, for fun and excitement in EC Minutia Land. Graham Ingles is very well represented in this volume. And they were able to source almost all of his Haunt of Fear covers, starting with number 11, which is the first one that he did. There's a couple key issues missing, and the reason for this is that the current owners declined to participate, and that's going to happen. So this is a good time to address that a lot of folks I've seen online talking about how they're sorry that their favorite cover, or in the case of the Best of EC Artists Editions, their favorite stories didn't appear. What you've got to remember is that these volumes are solely dependent on current owners being willing to share their collections. So for decades now, all the original EC art has been scattered across the globe. And for the artist editions, they do source anything that they are able to source. But again, they are at the mercy of current owners being willing to participate. There's a local friend of mine here who contributed almost a dozen covers to this volume. So people like that are fantastically awesome. And I want to say thanks for sharing your collections with us. Moving on to Harvey Kurtzman, one of the really nice things about this covers artist edition is that although Mad is currently owned by DC and not EC Comics, Scott Dunbier was able to get them included, so you've got Mad covers along with all the fantastic EC covers that are still owned by EC Comics. And also, we've got cover prelims for a lot of Kurtzman's Mad covers, along with and alongside the original art for the published covers. There are a couple more here that I want to highlight. One is this Williamson cover for the second issue of Valor. This one almost didn't make it into the book. It was within 2 weeks of not being able to be included due to the deadline. And I really want to thank Jim Halperin at Heritage for his help in getting this included by contacting the owner. And a big thank you to the current owner of this one. There's not a lot of Williamson EC covers, and this is a fantastic one, and it's really nice to have that included. One last cover that I noticed a paste over that had been removed, and that is for the Wallace Wood cover for Two-Fisted Tales 33. So if you look at the clippers there that are being held here, they look like garden shears. And for years, people talked about the fact that the actual snips on the cover of the published comic looked like Kurtzman had drawn them. That's because Kurtzman did draw them. He was unhappy with the authenticity of the clips that Wallace Wood had drawn here, and so Kurtzman redrew them. That paste over has since been removed, and not only can we see the way Wallace Wood actually drew them for this cover, we can see glue residue where the Kurtzman paste over has come off. So So much more to talk about in this book, but I'll let you experience it for yourself if you don't already have a copy. And if you're one of the many people who did have a copy and was asking why I hadn't done a video about it yet, now here's a video about it yet. So one reason that I haven't been on here as much is that I've been active with the other admins and mods for the EC Fan-Addict Club on an EC podcast. And if you go to ecfanaddicts.com, you can read about that. Now, there have been multiple delays due to the current COVID situation, and I am the only admin or moderator for the EC Fan-Addict Club who has not yet tested positive during this resurgence in variants. So, knock on wood, and you stay healthy too. I'll see you soon. Thanks a lot.